Brought to you by Lister Pros TV, streaming from Tempe, Arizona. And we're live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, happy Friday. We didn't have a show last week, so it's been a while since we saw you guys, but welcome to the How I Built It show here at Lister Pro Studio in Tempe, Arizona. Farai, my main production manager, is here. He said he wasn't going to be here, and then he surprised me, and he's here, and all is right in the world. I'm so pumped. And you can't see Farai. And I can't either because he's in the other room. But anyways, I hope you guys had a wonderful 2 weeks. Today, we're super excited. We have a young female hustler, entrepreneur in the title industry. So we're super excited to hear her story because she's definitely done a lot in her time in the industry. But I wanted to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, Empire West Title, Seth Banda, and then A. Bodden from Insurance Professionals of Arizona. Thanks for sponsoring the show. If anybody needs any quotes on insurance, make sure to contact Abe. He's definitely one that can take care of you. And then last but not least, Platinum Home Warranty. Yvonne Hunter, going into the summer. I know I say it every single week. Make sure to update or at least renew or buy a new home warranty, because if your AC craps out, you will be regretting it. Because when I was actually right here, before starting the show, one of my tenants in one of my rental properties texted me and said my garage broke. And you know what I said? I said, call the home warranty and it'll be fixed. Hopefully, cross your fingers. But if I didn't have a home warranty, then that may not be fixed, or it might cost a lot of money. So get your home warranties, call Yvonne. Thank you, Yvonne. And then obviously this show is brought to you by the Augustinian team at Prime Lending. If you guys have any questions on mortgages, refinance, purchase, construction, renovation, private message me, text me. Interest rates did dip down a little bit. So if you're thinking about refinancing, make sure to reach out. Oh, Matt, amateur.
I got excited.
Amateur. All right. So really quick. Okay. 2 things I wanted to address, and I've gotten this question before, and in relation to our guest Madison today, who I'll introduce in a second. But first things first is if you are an avid podcast person, you will know that there is a NPR podcast called How I Built This. Our show is called How I Built It. This show was inspired by that other show, because that show is a show that interviews Fortune 500 company CEOs, and that show inspired me to bring a show that does that on a smaller scale, because the local business owner, the small business entrepreneur, those people sometimes get missed out or get overlooked. And our goal here is to inspire others who may be in that situation. And it's, even though listening to the podcast and interviews with Fortune 500 CEOs is definitely very inspiring, right? It's inspiring, but sometimes it's unrelatable. Yes. Because it's a completely different situation. And so this show is to focus on all of us, because we can all relate to each other. And when it comes to motivating others and telling the story of others, I want people to be able to relate more to individuals who may not be at that Fortune 500 level yet, but hear the story of somebody like Madison who they can relate to, and that may be more obtainable, or something that can give them a goal that they can hit in the next year. You know, it's hard to build a Fortune 500 company in 2 years. And so, yes, this show was inspired by that show. So if you say I copied it, sure, whatever you want to call it, I copied it, but I did it to to give attention to all our local and small business owners and hear their story. Number 2, you will notice that this show is sponsored by Empire West Title, which we love our sponsor. And I have Madison Blean on the show. Welcome, Madison.
Hi.
From Lawyer's Title. And a lot of people may think, and you probably got this response, but wait. How can you have Madison on your show from Lawyer's Title when your show is sponsored by Empire West Title, right? And the reality is I don't care. Last show, I had the business development person from one of my competitors on Q Financial. And my view on this whole industry is that all my competitors are I consider them more so friends. I don't necessarily look, and we were talking about this yesterday. I look at my competitor more so as a friend, and I don't look at them as necessarily a competitor. And I know that happens so much in our industry, and we'll talk about that today. But I feel like if I look at that person as competition and it's taboo to have that person on our show or this person on our show, then I feel like that's a negative outlook on how you're doing business. Why do business that way? It's unnecessary. There's plenty of business in the world. There's plenty of room for friendships. And Madison knows our sponsor, and they know it's okay. But this show and the purpose of the show is to hear, it's about the story. It's about the journey. It's not about where the person works, because it's okay. So when I bring people on the show who may be a different insurance agent or somebody from another mortgage company, I might have another loan officer on. It's about the story. It's not necessarily about the fact that they work at one of our competitors, because for me, it's not like that, and it'll never be like that. So I wanted to address those two things, because Madison is super excited, and I was so pumped when I said, hey, do you want to be on the show? And she was like, yes. Like, I didn't even know you were that big of a podcast person.
Oh my God, I'm obsessed. Like, I have a real obsession with it.
Anytime I'm in the car, I listen to podcasts. But okay, so let me do the formal introduction. So today we have Madison Blean from Lawyer's Title. I've known Madison for quite a few years now. We kind of got into the industry probably around the same time. I got in, I think, a year or two earlier than you. But you are in title escrow. You are what's your official title? We have different titles and everything.
Sales executive, but I kind of tell people that my role falls within sales and business development. Marketing is kind of a loosely thrown around term, so is sales, and people don't really understand even what I do. So I just say business development. Yeah.
Okay. So Madison is the business development person, sales marketing executive for Lawyer's Title, which means she has her clientele that she services and helps with their business. But let's kind of rewind it. We'll get into the business side of it, but kind of set the stage for how did you find your way into title? Because like mortgage, like real estate, like title, it's not something we all dream about, but it finds us almost, So how did you get into it?
Well, I had no idea what it even was when I got into it, but quick backstory, and I probably have shared this in the past, so sorry for being repetitive, but went to University of Arizona for college, so bear down. I know I get a ton of crap from all the ASU people, but I'm very loyal. So went to U of A, was a political science major, was going to go to law school, and kind of had a midlife crisis at 21, 22, and was like, I don't know if this is what I want with my life, and told my parents, I want to go out and get a quote-unquote real job, and because I'd never really had one. I'd worked for attorneys.
Did you want to go to Washington or anything like that?
I don't know if I had thought to that extent. I wasn't quite sure what industry. I mean, I knew different types of law I didn't want to do, but wasn't quite sure, and decided I wanted a quote-unquote big girl job. My parents were like, look, it's your life. Do what you want. And I said, if I'm not happy at 25, I'll go back to law school because I'll still be an attorney before I'm 30. So I decided I want to get into sales. I've always been an athlete, been very competitive, and I'm like, and I'm good with people. I'm like, that's what I want to go do. But I had no job experience. So I actually got into alcohol sales, which is, not why I love wine, but that probably helped.
Yeah.
And they were offering me territories in California that I did not want to live in, or part-time work in San Francisco, which...
Were you back in California at that point?
Yeah, I'd moved back to California because I wanted to work in California. And... obviously no one can afford to work even living, or most people can't afford to live in San Francisco even working full-time, let alone part-time. So I moved back out here and took a position with a company, Southern Wine and Spirits, here in Arizona. And I was like, hey, I like the weather here. Cost of living is way cheaper. And if worst case scenario happens and I hate it, I move back home with my parents.
When you went back to California after living in Tucson, which I'm sorry you had to live in Tucson.
I mean, it's fun for college. It's not like where I want to live now.
It's okay. I went to college in Reno, Nevada. So Reno, it's like you got University of Nevada, Las Vegas, University of Nevada, Reno.
Yeah.
Same thing. It's the same thing like U of A and
and
Las
Reno.
Vegas.
And Reno's nothing. It's like it's like Tucson. Like there's nothing.
Sure. Well, it's not Tucson. That's like, don't bring
The
down
only
Reno.
nice thing
Don't
in Reno
bring
is the
down
Atlantis
Reno.
Casino, which we had to stay at when we went to volleyball tournaments.
That's cool. No, Reno's gotten crazy since you were there. Don't bring down Reno.
I'll take your word on it.
All right. So when you went back to California, did you immediately miss Arizona? Because I feel like
No, I was home for like a year trying to figure out what it is I wanted to do and realized that's when I didn't want to be an attorney.
Where'd you live in California?
I was living with my parents.
But like where?
They're from a very small town called Gilroy, California. We're about 30 minutes south of San Jose, so Silicon Valley.
Okay.
And
Super nice area though.
It's a very nice area, very unaffordable area. Traffic is crazy.
My sister-in-law lives in San Jose.
Yeah, it's awful.
I don't know how she lives. I don't know how much money she makes.
It's out of control. But yeah, I was like, okay, like whatever, I'll try it. And so I came out here, had no intention of probably staying in Arizona because I thought, oh, I'm going to go back to Arizona or California, and then loved it here, but hated my job. Because I was working in the grocery stores, which that sucked.
Oh.
Yeah. If I was on the bar restaurant side, I probably never
Yeah.
would have left, and I probably never would have been entitled.
Wow.
So I guess things happen for a reason.
How's the restaurant? Like,
I wasn't in that side.
were you selling? Oh, but no.
If I
sorry.
was, I would have probably
Were you
stayed.
the one like
I was one at the grocery store.
for wine bottles or what?
Yeah, like, you know, when you go into the store and there's like all these displays of different wine, that's what I was doing.
You were like picking how to
Display it and basically trying to talk the, liquor manager at the store into having my product in there. It's not very enjoyable.
Isn't it a whole game at grocery stores too? Like you have to pay to play on where
Yeah.
you want your placement?
Yep.
So were you negotiating that or is that pre-negotiated?
It depended. It depended on your relationship with the liquor manager. So I'd go to work at like 4 o'clock in the morning. That was really fun too.
And you go grocery store to grocery store to grocery store to grocery store.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was not a glamorous
Okay.
life.
Hey, life experience.
It was my first job that I'd ever really had. I was making what I thought at the time was a lot of money because I'd never really had a job. And then I was like, oh, never mind, I'm poor.
So then what happened?
Was not happy, just wanted to do something different. And a family friend of ours actually works for our parent company, Fidelity National Title Group. She's now in charge of all escrow training. My mom and her happened to just have a conversation one day. My mom was cleaning her teeth because my mom was a dental hygienist. And she just said, Madison's looking for a new job. And she was like, I know some people in Phoenix. Like, maybe we can just do some introductions.
Yeah.
So went on what I thought was a job interview. And they're like, nope, it's just networking. Like, not a job interview at all. I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
And ended up leaving with a job. And I told my parents, I'm like, I think I got a job and I have no idea what
With
I'm going to be
lawyer's
doing.
title?
Yeah. And
Wait, so when were you still working for the other job?
yeah.
Did you even think like, wait, I wanted to go try the bar side, or do you have to like earn the bar
That they
side?
basically tell you like someone has to get fired or like retire or die to get into that because no one wants to leave.
Being the rep for the alcohol sales for bars is like
in restaurants,
is that
it's
like
like exclusive.
Gotcha.
And yeah, I wanted to do that, but I was not going to wait for any three of those options to
Okay.
happen. So,
you are an entrepreneur. You have no patience.
Yeah, I'm not a very patient person. Got my job with lawyers, and the only territory they needed someone for was the Southeast Valley. I had never been south of Tempe. Well, I mean, I'd been to Tucson, but on the 10, I wasn't hanging out. So I didn't even know what Gilbert was. So
Yeah.
I've learned a lot in the last almost 5 years. But I was like, hey, I'm from California where you drive everywhere. And it's,
Which is like a blessing because the Southeast Valley is a good.
oh, I love it.
That's like
I'm just not ready to live there yet.
yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. But because I live in Scottsdale, and not like I'm trying to say I live in Scottsdale, but that's where I live. And it's a reverse commute, so I don't mind it at all. And it's cool because it's actually opened me up to be able to have business throughout the valley.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Like as a type, we'll get into that next. So
Yeah.
So you get this job. You have no clue
What I'm even doing.
if you got.
So
a
my
job.
first clients, I'm really sorry because I probably didn't even know what I was telling you.
So who, is it who hired you?
My bosses, Anthony Penna and Ryan Banavac, hired me.
So they hired you at this networking thing.
Well, no, a higher up is who met me and then basically told them they needed to hire me.
Okay, so then you get hired. You literally fall into title and escrow.
Yes.
Like this isn't even like a lot of us get into it because our friend says,
Yeah,
hey, you should do
no.
this. Like, you know J. Ray.
Yeah.
Shout out to J. Ray. J. Ray met me in 2011 and said, you should be a mortgage guy.
Yeah.
So, like, yours wasn't even somebody saying you should do this. Yours
No.
was, I'm going to a networking event
Yeah.
and someone hired you.
Yeah. And what's really funny is one of my best friends who's an agent with Launch, prior to any of this, she was like, hey, there's this job that I think you would be really good at. And it was actually titled, but she didn't really, wasn't listening / didn't really get what she was trying to explain to me. So I was like, yeah, whatever. Okay. And so now that I'm in it, she's like, yeah, I told you this is what you would be good at.
Yeah.
So, and funny story. So, didn't mean to just hit that. J. Ray, who has worked with my branch manager, Katie Smith, for years. Katie's husband's actually from Hollister, which is a really small town in Gilroy. So I think that she was like, okay, fine. Like, you guys are
My
from
first
similar
job
areas.
was Hollister.
No, it's not the store. It's
I
a
know, I'm
city.
just saying. You said Hollister, that's what came to my mind.
Okay, and people think of like beach and it's like Cowtown. So
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't fit. So when you started your job, so now you're in title escrow, and I feel like a lot of people get into when they're taking a leap of faith. So this is where I think your entrepreneur side comes out. Even though you're working for a company, you have a job that you have to build your clientele and you have to service your clientele. And it's the same thing, whether you're starting your own business or you're in a position where you work for a company, but you have to build your own brand essentially. You're completely lost, right? Do they tell you what to do? Because the same thing as starting a small business, nobody's telling you what to do. You have to build it yourself. So did anybody tell you what you should?
Yeah, they told me like the things I needed to do to start, but I basically
did
just
you know
had
anything about
No.
what you're like?
I didn't
know
know
what
anything about
realtors do?
I mean, I knew what realtors did, but I didn't know very much about what it was. And I basically just was like, okay, I know how to talk to people and I can develop relationships and just go with it. And I am someone, I mean, I love podcasts. I love books. I've always been like nerdy in that sense. Not saying that being nerdy is a bad thing, but so I wanted to learn. So I did everything I could to learn about what I needed. And, you know, I probably did fake it a little bit in the beginning to just kind of.
Hell yeah.
But I mean, obviously I did learn with it. And it's one of those things that, I mean, I just had to go out there and hustle and meet people and get business. And yeah. I know it sounds really easy.
So first year though, so you get the Southeast Valley. That's kind of your territory.
Yeah.
Which in title does territory
I mean, some
really
people
matter?
have more. I mean, my focus obviously is the Southeast Valley,
Yeah.
and my focus is my branch in Gilbert. But with living in Scottsdale and just relationships in general, I have business. I mean, it's like a realtor. If your best friend lives in Surprise, you're still probably going to help them because that's your relationship. So, I mean, I do have business all over the valley, but my focus definitely is Southeast Valley.
So first year, like, what did you start doing?
I don't even remember because I came in at a weird. I came in in October, so obviously the market. I mean, we're going into the holidays, so things were slow. So I think I just honestly started calling people and trying to get appointments, and I had a bunch of people tell me, okay, next year, and I just stayed on them.
What was like your pitch?
I don't even remember.
Like, what did you say? Like, hey, you'd like to?
I honestly have no idea. I don't even remember. I was told yesterday I'm a good stalker, which that's kind of scary, but I just am like relentless and I'll just keep staying in front of people. But I don't want to be creepy, so I'll like call them or I'll text them or like Facebook them or Instagram. Just eventually, and it's building rapport. And I think that's what I was doing. Eventually, I just started to build rapport with people, and I was going to networking events and meeting people and, you know, doing classes and tours and figuring out what it was that eventually worked in my business. And obviously so much of that's changed.
And you're just so people know, because they may not understand what title and escrow is when you buy a house or you refinance a house or anything like that, the title and escrow company basically is the third party that handles all the disbursement of funds, records with the county and all that good stuff. So Madison's job is representing Laura's title and her escrow officer, Katie Smith.
Well, I have a couple, but yes.
Oh, couple.
Katie's my branch manager.
That's the only one I know.
Yeah.
And so Katie remembers me when I worked for J. Ray in 2011.
They're definitely not watching this. They're too busy.
That's a good thing to say.
Yes.
But so her job is to you have a lot of jobs. That's the crazy thing. Your job is to get them to, they want to use lawyer's title, but you have to, Katie, the escrow officer, needs to know what they're doing. So you're representing two things. You're representing lawyer's title, so people send their transactions to you, but also helping them develop their business.
Well, and I also kind of have to represent myself and the escrow officer because, and
John
doing this.
John Seeley from JK said you called him back in the day.
Probably. Hey, John. What's funny is that so many people think that I'm the escrow officer, and I always tell them, like, you do not want me working your files.
They put your name on the contract, don't they?
All the time. I get, like, lender emails all the time, and I'm like, hey, this needs to go to the escrow officer.
Yeah.
But, like, I know, obviously, you're busy and working files, but at a certain point, things are then handed off to your processors and things like that, whereas the escrow officers are working hundreds of files at a time, so they're not able to go out and get business. So that's where I come in, that I'm representing lawyer's title, myself, and then them. So it is kind of that struggle of, like, people will build a relationship with me, and then they also still need to build a relationship with the escrow officers. So that's kind of what I sell, of, like, the relationship.
How do they end up? So curiosity, when you're selling that, and they need to know the escrow officer, is there kind of does the escrow officer do you ever bring them out on a meeting, or is it really like first transaction, see how it goes?
If people come into my office for meetings, then yes, I introduce them. The girls don't come out to meetings. I mean, it's
so busy.
Physically impossible.
Yeah.
And there are times where we have a lot of clients that just have a straight up email and phone and relationship, and then eventually they'll meet and they're like, oh my gosh, it's so nice to put a face to a name. So I've been really trying to step up my social media game. So I did like a whole series of, I introduced everyone on our team on Facebook just so people could recognize who they were, who they always talk with. And I now kind of like send videos out to clients of like openings and closings. And so now they can see the escrow officers, which that's kind of fun. And people are like, oh, hi, nice to meet you, Katie, or nice to meet you, Liz, or whoever. Yeah.
And I noticed that about yourself. This year you've kind of changed things up. So you've been in the business for quite a few years, and you won some awards, right?
Yes.
You've been
It'll
doing
be
good.
5 years in October.
And last year you had a good year?
Yes.
Because I think you said you're going on a trip here in the next couple weeks.
Yes. We're going, my branch manager, Katie Smith, and Liz Stanek in my office, and myself are going to a trip. We were top 10% for all of Fidelity nationwide.
Which is super awesome. And especially for you being young in this industry. And I think this is a good message for many people, no matter what age you are. But when for being only 5 years in the industry, you've done a lot, and you've been very successful, especially being young and going on an uphill battle. What do you think is your biggest reason that helped make that happen?
I'm a perfectionist. I'm competitive, so I want to always be number one. And I'm not always number one, and I'm not. On our sales team, we have one of my dearest friends. He works the West Valley, just a killer, Chris Medina. He's our number one rep, and I'm always like going after him because but it's an inspiration, and you need to always have people that push you to be better. But I think that's my personality. Like I was never okay with just having an A. I wanted an A+, or I couldn't, the other day, I literally thought I pulled my hamstrings because I was working out and I wanted to sprint and like beat the guys that I was sprinting against, which is silly because they were all like way taller and like longer stride. But I want to always win, and I always want to push myself and do better. And I think it's just my personality that's just me.
Do you think when you see other escrow officers from either other companies or in your company, when you see them struggling, what do you think the most common reason is for that?
Escrow officers is hard because for me, mine is like I have my relationship with them, so I know it's like maybe they're overwhelmed, maybe they have stuff going on outside of work, and it's really just kind of figuring out how I can alleviate those problems. But it could be they're overloaded. Maybe they just have too much on their plate.
What about like marketing reps too, like other people in your positions? Because that's a hard position to fill.
I definitely have the benefit of like I don't have kids. I'm not married, so I can be at things. Like I was at an event till like 10 last night, and then I came home to clean up a muddy mess in my house for my dogs. But I do think that's kind of a benefit. Like I don't have to worry about going home to kids and feeling guilty about being at things. But I think it comes down to like your want to just like improve, or to, even when things are good, it's hard to, and we all have those moments where we get complacent, but it's always wanting to do more and figuring out like what other people are doing that works for them or doesn't work. And that's why I love that we can, build rapport with people that are even our competitors. And I have a lot of friends in title that work for different companies, and it's fun for us to, mastermind and see what works for them, what doesn't work. And a lot of it's personality related, what resonates best with you.
So 2019. I know we've talked about this because intentionality and being intentional, and you've definitely stepped up your social media game and your videos and connecting with people. So what are you doing different this year that changed, and what's the messaging behind your intentionality efforts and your social media? So what did you try to instigate this year?
So I started coaching with Chelsea Pites. She works for Fidelity National Title Group. She's our head of social selling, phenomenal. And I mean, I've always been big on Instagram. Facebook is something I do because of being in this industry. I always tell people, I'm like, if I wasn't in this, I probably wouldn't be using Facebook because none of my friends are on Facebook anymore. But I just saw I could leverage it in a way that I could actually build real relationships. And for the longest time, I had a hard time with people knowing things about you without you actually knowing them. And I realized that's just the reality of things. And if anything, it allows me to know, hey, like, Anderson did this today, or, my dog did. I mean, it allows you to kind of break down barriers. And I realized that was something that is natural for me because it's part of my everyday life. So I'm like, why not leverage this in a business sense? And what's so funny is my sister's a hair and makeup artist in LA. Little shout out to Ariana. If you want to follow her, Ariana Shailene Blean on Instagram. She's amazing.
Do it.
I mean, I've seen the success that she's clearly had from social media, and that's an industry that is highly dominated. That's 100% how they get their business. And not saying this is 100% how my business is grown, but I just realized I could leverage that. But my biggest thing was being intentional. And obviously, we know people post, the good. Although I did just post some stuff of like video of the dog destroying my house. But for the most part, I want people to know like this is me in a real life setting. And yes, we have photos that like, oh, this is the picture I got taken for Christmas. So I'm going to keep using photos that are nicer. But just really trying to connect with people on a more personal level. Because obviously I don't have time to see every single person every day. But I can connect with people on Instagram or Facebook or via video. And you do a really good job with it too. So that was kind of my thing. Just, no longer caring what other people think. Just being more me, being more intentional. And just, for me to have conversations with people over direct message on Instagram and build rapport is really normal.
Yeah. And you're right. I think the key is there. A lot of people, and we see it all the time in our industry, a lot of people, they use social media and it becomes almost robotic. And they have scheduled posts and they're only posting certain things, or it's very, very just salesy, robotic, blah, 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 blah. But in reality, I think the thing is now social media and all that stuff is the norm. So and people, at one point, I remember 2 years ago, everybody was posting conversion. Yeah. Look at my listings, look at this, and then capture the lead and all that stuff, which they still do in a certain way. But I think now, this year, the difference is like, you're right, we don't have time to talk to everybody. We don't have time to go out to coffee with everybody because everybody's busy, and that's not us. That's also our counterparts. And
with life and work and everything in general.
Exactly. And so I think the difference now is social media is almost to normalize the relationship and connect on an individual level. And I still post stuff about our business. We always do that, but not making it 95% of what we do, because then it's just the scroll factor.
Exactly. And I think that's where people have really failed. I use this analogy, and Amanda Briggs, our director of education technology, always uses it too. And I told an agent this yesterday. I said, when's the last time you saw an OBGYN post, congrats to Mr. and Mrs. Smith on the birth of their new baby? Like, they don't do that. They allow the family to do it, and they get business from referrals because
congrats
someone was
to Jennifer for not having any STDs.
Yeah, no, people don't do that. So they're like, hey, you should just use my doctor because they were excellent. And not saying that realtors shouldn't be doing those things. I mean, they need to, because you need to still be reminding, your database, this is what you do. But I think our industry has failed because that's all we talk about. And people don't want to hear it all the time. Unless people are in the mindset of like buying and selling, they just don't care. And I mean, I've had some friends be like, okay, why are you doing all this video stuff? Like, they don't get it. So I've tried to make things, relational to people who are outside this industry as well as still in, and kind of sharing, here's a more personal like glimpse into like my everyday life, but also associated with work, and just try and make people more relatable. And I think that's what I'm trying to share works.
I like that perspective. I think a lot of people don't look at it in that way of everybody who's not in our industry. They're like, wow, Madison all of a sudden is posting like crazy. And being able to make your life on social media understandable by whether you're in the industry or not in the industry, I think that's the key. That's the challenge that Most
Yeah.
people have, and I guarantee if a lot of people look back at their social media content, they actually look at it through somebody else's eyes,
Yeah.
not just their own.
Mm-hmm.
They may rethink how they would approach that.
I still look at my stuff that I did like years ago. It shows up like on my Time Hop app, and I'm like, oh my gosh, why did I use that filter? Why was I posting this? But I think a lot of it is just, even in my world, people don't know what I do. I mean, my dad like last week was like, so what is it that you do again? I was like, Dad, oh my gosh. And he's like, so I'm a realtor. I'm like, okay. He's like, and I just am doing a ton of business, like 5 deals a week. And I was like, okay. I'm like, he's like, just killing it. And I'm like, okay, well, like, how are you getting those 5 deals a week? He's like, I don't know. They're just like coming to me. I'm like, well, that doesn't just happen. And he was like, well, what would you sit down with me about? And I did like a little quick breakdown, and it was just so over his head. And I was like, this is why I don't explain it to people.
Yeah. All right. So it's a last topic, and we'll start to wrap this up. Can you believe it's already been 33 minutes?
No, and I was so nervous about this because even though this was like making my podcast dreams come true, even though I spilled all over myself and I had a lovely stain.
Madison, when I came in, I thought she spilled coffee all over herself.
No, I got toothpaste on me because I don't drink coffee. Fun fact about me.
You don't drink coffee?
No, I don't.
That's
like the taste
very
of it.
interesting.
I'm really picky, so.
But you like wine taste.
Well, yeah, because it's wine.
But I know, but it's a similar not similar in that sense, but like the.
I'm already hyper enough.
Are you a sugary person?
No.
Okay.
No, not at all. Oh gosh, can't do it. But I was so nervous, and this has been really easy because I think maybe because we're just talking, and I don't have to like just look at the camera or figure out what I'm saying. And I was a little nervous that I was gonna cuss or be too quick talking.
No, you're fine.
But I've done.
It's because we're talking about things we like enjoy talking about, and it's part of our life.
Yeah.
Okay, but our last topic, we were talking about this the other day, loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
People see me post about loyalty all the time, and I think the quote that I posted the other day really resonates with conversations that we've had. And we don't have to, this is not a negative topic, but it's a very interesting topic that I think people beat around the bush with, and they don't talk about it. And I think is super important, is in part of life, business, personal, karma related, and everything. The quote that I posted yesterday was something along the lines of like, if your loyalty is directly correlated to opportunity, then you need to rethink yourself, because that happens a lot in our industry. And I think when it happens to us, yeah, we could self-reflect, and we probably do. I self-reflect, and
we're
I know,
human.
yeah, we're human. But then it's understanding that you're, like you were saying, like not caring what people think. And the reality is relationships come and go. And I think going along with your intentionality, my intentionality for this year was actually lowering the number of people I work with, and cleaning out the closet, because when I looked at a lot of the individuals that I worked with,
quality over quantity.
Yeah, quality over quantity. And a lot of relationships in this industry are very surface level. And that's probably in every industry.
Yeah. But, or in just the world in general, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I think social media has made it more surface level, to where you have
100%.
coffee with somebody, and you...
It's a good and a bad thing. You get to know people, but then at the same time, you actually don't really know them either.
Yeah, you have coffee with them once or twice, and then you're Facebook friends, and now you're considered friends.
Yeah.
But lowering the amount of people that we work with, so we can be more intentional in those relationships that we have that are strong relationships. And like, what's your experience with loyalty? Because, you know, you see relationships come and go, and people we work with come and go, and how did it affect you in the early years as opposed to now? Because I know it affects me differently now.
Yeah. I would have to think back. I have a really good memory, but then like with this kind of stuff, I kind of can't remember.
Yeah.
Like I can remember literally probably what I wore to my first day of kindergarten, but I can't remember this. I mean, I'm a human, and as much as I say I don't want to care what other people think, I mean, we do. I'm working on not letting that like outside noise get to me, but we are human, and it does happen. And I think I probably take it really personally, because I am extremely genuine in everything I do. And it's not to say that we don't have moments or have people that you don't connect with in the same way, or that just life happens. But I really do things out of sheer being genuine and being very intentional. So, I mean, I do take it very personally, and it's hard. And it's something that I think I've learned in this business is kind of hard to come around to find that. But I think it's just kind of unfortunately like our world too.
Yeah.
I mean, like, think about, I mean, this seems silly, but like think about you go get your nails done and you probably use like a different person every time. But like if you just use the same person, they take care of you, they know what you like. I mean, we try to do that like when we go to our favorite restaurant, we literally have the same server every time because we just know she doesn't take care of us. And I don't know, it's one of those things that it is hard because I think we're all very distracted and drawn to shiny objects. But I mean, we're all humans. So I mean, I definitely still take things personally, but I don't ever say anything because I'm just like the most unconfrontational person in the whole world.
Yeah. It's definitely...
But I think to answer your question, I mean, I'm sure it affected me then because I'm still me. I've grown, but I just don't remember exactly what I did to handle it.
Yeah. I mean, loyalty in our industry, and it happens to us. I mean, for you, it's your realtors who send you guys business and may switch from escrow officers. But for us, it happens on two facets. It happens with the realtor partners we work with, but also our past clients, whether they go back to refi or anything like that. And I think the hard part that is sad is when we work so hard for a relationship and we do things that we do so much on the lending side behind the scenes that we'll never tell anybody to make sure things go good. And we because we put so much love and effort into that relationship, and then you're right, that individual after a year and a half gets taken away by a shiny object. And it's not to say if there's a better opportunity or a better fit for that relationship, it's totally cool. But sometimes it happens where we don't know why. Yeah. And
you don't even have the opportunity to fix anything or even know if there was something that needed.
Correct. And the times where I think it's sad, and those people will get frustrated with the same situation when they say their clients sell a house with somebody else, right? Yeah. Is when that nothing was wrong, but they got taken by somebody offering them, I don't know, marketing dollars or something like that. I want to split Zillow. So I think in this world though, if you have your circle of individuals that you do business with, I think that raises that person to new heights, because then you're not looking for new relationship constantly. And you've already set your foundation, which allows you to keep growing and growing and growing because your foundation's set. If you don't have your foundation of people set that you work with on a constant basis, then you're just kind of going round and round down here, Yeah. We talk about this a lot because it happens to us all the time.
And it's us a lot too.
Yeah. And it's loyalty is a big thing. And I think if you have loyalty in your personal life and your business life, then karma will come back to you and you'll succeed a lot faster.
Well, like perfect example, after you asked me to do this podcast, I immediately called. So Andrew's business partner, Jake, is one of my dear friends. Obviously, I do work some stuff with Andrew with some clients, but Jake's been kind of my go-to for a very long time. And I was like, hey, are you okay with me doing this with Andrew? And he's like, oh my gosh, of course. We're a team. And his wife, Addie, is one of my dear friends, and her sister is my sister's best friend. So it's just one of those things that without this relationship, I wouldn't have some of those others, but I still want to honor the other relationships I have, because I never want to step on people's toes or do anything. But I do agree. I think that we all as humans need to work on it. Although this week, people have been really nice this week. I've had random strangers be super nice all week. And I said, I think Mercury is in the opposite of retrograde, where people are actually being nice. Yeah. And it's kind of shocking. You're like, whoa, what's going on?
You know what's very interesting is when we have somebody we work with for years, and then all of a sudden they disappear for a year, and then they come back, which is okay, because
But I'm so non-confrontational that I wouldn't even probably ever ask what happened.
Exactly, right? Even though we should be able to and understand.
And some people do, and you might be able to. I don't know. I can't. I'm so bad at it.
I know, but it's the best feeling when they do come back.
No, it's right. You're justice, not justice. That's super dramatic. But you're all is right in the world again.
Yeah, Theo. We love Theo. Theo
hi, Miss Theo.
Madison talks very fast. Madison is genuine with her intentions. Yes.
I'm sorry. I was really trying not to talk fast. This has been my problem my whole life. And in second grade, I had a teacher who she was extremely fast. And my mom and dad said for a full year, they couldn't understand me because I just talked just as fast as my teacher. So I'm sorry. I don't even realize I do it.
I have one thing to say with loyalty that I think will resonate with everybody, and especially with you. I have no problem when somebody wants to meet to mastermind or go over ideas. But what I do have a problem with is when somebody schedules a meeting to talk about doing business together. Because when I go have coffee with somebody and we start talking business and marketing, I talk about all my ideas that I do on a regular basis, because my whole business model is, how do I turn one of our clients, me realtor, into 2 clients, into 4 clients. So I am very big on events and getting things together where people come together. Yes. Spirit. And so I get really passionate, like, we should do this. And what really irks me is when I have a meeting because somebody's like, oh yeah, I want to do business together. But really they're there just to see what I do and what I do with my realtor partners. And then they go do it with someone else right after. Be honest with me, or be honest with whoever. This is not just me. I'm saying in business, if you want to go brainstorm with somebody, because remember, I'm not competition. I think there's plenty of business in this world for everybody. Yeah. And if you would just want to come talk to me and learn what I do, I'll tell you. I don't care, because to me, I try to be friendly with everybody, even though technically you are my competition or anything like that. Like, I have no problem telling you what I do, because there's no secret to it. It's just common sense to me, and I'm happy to mastermind with everybody. But don't come to me telling me that you want to do business with me just to hear my ideas. I'll tell you my ideas. Let's just go have coffee together and network.
Well, I think it comes from then the whole, like, being intentional, like, have your intention up front of, like, hey, I'm looking to learn from you. I mean, like I said, I have some dear friends that work for other title companies, and that's where some of my best masterminding come from, because we, like, bounce things off each other, like, where are your strengths? And everyone's going to do things differently, because everyone's personality is different, and we just attract different people. I mean, that's why you see top producers all the time, whether it's title, lending, agents, share what they do successfully, because A, 99% of people aren't going to go do it.
Yep.
But B, there's enough business out there, and people do it differently, because everyone is different as a human too. But no, I think that kind of comes back to, like, the intention of it. Just be honest.
Intentionality. You know? That's the key right
That's my
here.
word for the year.
Intentionality. Madison, we're going to start wrapping it up. Is there one piece of advice that you would give to either individuals in general and on a broad, like, message, besides just being intentional, or do you want to give shout outs to your realtors, or thank your partners? I'm going to leave the floor to you for a few sentences.
Oh gosh, it's a lot of pressure.
I know.
I mean, I think just in anything, it's just going out there and just, like, doing the actual work that needs to be done. I think we as millennials get kind of truthfully, I hear this all the time. We get a really bad rap of, like, we don't like to work, we're lazy. And then people say, oh, well, you're, like, different than most, which kind of is offensive to me, because I'm like, I don't think we're all that way. I just think some people get a bad rap, but I think it just comes down to, like, you got to put the work in, regardless of what you're in and what industry. And to just, I don't know, push yourself, set your goals, and, like, always have your normal goal, have your stretch goal, have your push. And, like, your goal is always to get past both and get to your push, regardless if it's work, personal, anything. And yeah, just go out there and do it.
Amen.
Yeah.
Madison, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
It's going to be on all your phones. It's going to be uploaded to our podcast
I'm going to feel site. Like my favorite podcast host.
Yeah, you got to subscribe. Make sure to subscribe to How I Built It, an entrepreneur's story, on your phone. Subscribe to it. All the shows from the past 2 years are actually in the process of being uploaded. So there's a ton of good shows on there with local entrepreneurs, small business owners. And if you would like to be on a show, if you have a story that you'd like to share, please message me, and we'd love to have you on. Let's give a quick shout out to our sponsors again. Empire West Title, Insurance Professionals of Arizona.
Which Abe's amazing. He really saved me when I was no longer able to be insured with.
Did he really?
With State Farm.
Abe Bodden. Abe Bodden's not even watching. Abe Bodden.
He's amazing.
I've known Abe for many years, and Abe, Honest Abe, is what I call him. Did he really save you?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Because State Farm sucks. Sorry for any people that are out there on State Farm.
You were at State Farm. Sorry, we're biased.
I got one accident, not even my fault, and they will no longer insure me anymore.
So Abe is awesome. If you need insurance, actually, I'll give you another positive story about Abe. We're in the middle of a refi. Whenever we do a refi for somebody, we actually will look at their insurance, because if I look at insurance, I can tell you if I think it's considered high for that size property. And I had a borrower who I was like, oh my goodness, they're paying an absurd amount of insurance for this house, like absurd, like more than $1 million house for not $1 million house. And I'm like, hey, let me have our insurance guy quote it. So I had Abe quote it. He cut their insurance in half for the same coverage. Well,
my car insurance is not cheaper, but he's saving me on my houses, which is cool.
So Platinum Home Warranty, thank you for always sponsoring. Those are our 3 sponsors. And then this show is brought to you by the Augustine at Prime Lending. If you guys have any questions on financing for your home in any given way possible, make sure to message me. Thank you to Fry and Lister Pros for always producing the show. If you or your business need any media production, that's what Lister Pros does. And you can reach out to them, Fry, or reach out to me, and I can put you in contact with them. Madison, thank you for being on the show.
So much.
Make sure to subscribe on your phones. Just in case you don't see it Facebook Live, you can always listen to it in your car like Madison and I do to all our podcasts.
Yes.
Have a wonderful weekend. We'll catch you next week.